sounds like, though, because you said but, it's hard to be away from them. But I know it's good for me. It tells me something about your spiritual faith. And you may not be completely there, guys, but that's a start. That's a start. If this young man's spiritual strength wasn't strong, A, he wouldn't be here today. But you know who else he has? He has the Lord. He has his church. And because you guys are leaders, and I would hope you would exemplify what it means to be a Christian as you. He doesn't have everybody, but he should have you. If who you are and what you stand for is the shirt you're wearing on your back. God does not promise to eliminate all the heartaches and problems in our lives. He doesn't promise that. He doesn't promise that He's going to keep us away from disasters in our life. There was no promise of that. But if you know anything about athletics and anything about life, it is in our defeats that we gain our strength. It is in our defeats that we learn and change. Think about when you lose a basketball game or a volleyball game. What do you have to do in order not to lose again? Practice harder. Have more spiritual devotion. What else do you have to do? It's one word, and it begins with a C. That's it. Concentrate. Good. Change. You're smart. Okay, if you lose in a basketball game or volleyball game, you got to change, or you're going to lose again. You got to change something. The turnovers, the missed shots, you got to change something. Right? When you lose, we're going to lose in life every once in a while. We're going to fail. It's part of it. But here's the deal. Are you going to change when you fail? Are you going to change because of the situation you're dealing with your parents? And I believe the answer is yes. Are you going to change when you have a death of a loved one in your family? And are you going to change by being more loving to people and not taking people for granted? Are you going to change? When you fail, you must change. Not be mad at God, but change. Learn something from it. Learn something from it. Because if you don't change in athletics, you're going to keep losing. And if you don't change after tests come in your life, more tests are going to keep coming in your life because you never learned from it. And that's when people go, man, I'm just backed up in the corner. Life's eating me up, spitting me out. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Well, it's because we didn't change. And we can change with the Lord's help. The Lord wants us to change. The Lord wants us to have a great work ethic. The Lord wants us to show that after a loss, we're tough. The Lord does not want us to wither. Guys, 90% of what happens in life, okay, is how we react to it. 10% of what happens to us in life, that's just 10%. What happens? The death of a loved one. A friend lying to us. That's just 10%. How we respond is 90% of it, of how our life's going to go. And the choices that we're going to make. That's huge. But the bottom line to the season is this. How many games you win, how many tests you overcome during the span of 1 year of your life is going to be a direct reflection of how well you prepared in your daily spiritual life. In your daily spiritual life in the preseason and in your athletic life in the preseason. How well you practice is how well you'll play. How well you practice your spiritual journey is how well those tests will be conquered when they hit us in our lives. How are we doing on time, Cindy? Okay, all right. I'm going to move on to postseason real quick, okay? What do you guys do in postseason? What's the meaning? Why do you have a postseason, do you think? Okay, playoffs. Now let's just say the year's over. You've already finished your season. You've already gone to the playoffs. Whatever game it was, you're just done. And it's the off season. Okay? Okay, rusty. Okay, hopefully we're just not, just getting out our last game and we're like, okay, tomorrow we're going to practice again. No, we don't do that. Right? We take some time off. And we get ready for the next season. Okay? Now, we take some time off, and that's how we get ready for the next season. Do you think we decide, after, we were 19-10 last year. Okay? Do you think we waited until this September to go, okay, now let's get better? Do you think we waited until September to go, okay, what did we do well last year and not? When did we evaluate that? The next day, immediately. So when we look back in our lives on the last year, do this with yourself. Let's say now is immediately. How's your last year been? How have you done with your last year? Academically, athletically, with your friends, with your family. How's it been? You have to evaluate it immediately. You cannot wait. How many of us do that? You have to evaluate in retrospect. Okay? How did I handle life situations? How did I love each other? Was I a loving person last year? Okay? And postseason, you decide how good you want to be the next season, right? You didn't get off the bench this year. You figure that out right after the season, and you decide you want to be a starter. You better get to work. Okay? You had 5 obstacles in your life last year. You handled 4 of them very well, and one of them, you completely, it overtook you. You weren't strong enough. See, guys, you're going to either be strong enough to overcome the obstacle, or the obstacle is going to overcome you. And you got to make that evaluation in postseason. You have to decide that. Okay? You have to decide and maintain your strengths. So if you had 5 obstacles and you only succeeded in accomplishing and feeling good about one, then you need to understand, hey, I've got to improve in such and such area. That involves self-reflection, and that involves you looking at yourself saying, I acknowledge I'm not very good in this area. One of the toughest ones is forgiveness. We expect the Lord to forgive us all the time. How many times do we forgive ourselves? And how many times do we forgive others? If you do not love the person, listen to this carefully. If you do not love the person more than the pain they instilled on you, you will not forgive them. Sorry, it happens all the time. It shouldn't, but it does. Okay? But if the pain ensued on you is more damaging than the love you have for someone, it's hard to forgive them. But if you truly love someone and they do something to hurt you, you'll forgive them. That's one way to improve in the postseason. You also have to maintain the things that you did well. Hey, I handled this situation very, very well. Maintain that. Keep that as a part of who you are. And then work on the areas that you have weaknesses in. It's not just going to happen. It's going to take time, it's going to take effort, and it's going to take you making a decision to do so. Okay? The other thing you have to do in preseason or in postseason is this. Reflect. Does anybody know what imagery is in athletics? What's imagery? When you use imagery. Psychology class. College students, you might need help. What's imagery? Good. When you actually mentally see yourself winning a race, what I like is that you use 2 positive examples. But can we also use imagery to see negative things happen? Okay, we don't want to do that. We want to use imagery, okay, to make positive things happen in our minds before it'll ever happen in actuality. When we go through struggles and when you're reflecting on your life in the postseason, you need to ask yourself this. When things were tough, did I visualize? Did I see the Lord's presence? Can I look back and see how He helped me through that situation? And if you can, and if you do, you will be able